Okay, eating disorders. Okay, I'm going to talk about this very briefly. The primary treatment for eating disorders, for binge eating and bulimia, is psychotherapy, but there are some medications that can be used to treat. With bulimia, antidepressants have some efficacy, but it's not very impressive. Okay, now here's a little caveat, and that is watch for seizures. Do you remember that with all antidepressants, they carry a very small risk of provoking spontaneous seizures in people that previously have had no epilepsy at all, okay? And so, because they lower seizure threshold. Well, it's been found that this is even more likely to be the case when you have somebody has bulimia because of frequent vomiting or the use of laxatives. Their electrolytes are not regulated well enough, and so that lowers seizure threshold significantly. Now, the big problem with this is that most people don't come to see a therapist for bulimia. About half the people who have bulimia at some point along the road are going to develop major depression, and so they come in and they don't talk about bulimia because they're embarrassed about it, but they have major depression, and so they start taking antidepressants, and then you get a call, 3 in the morning, hey, your patient's in the ER, they just had a seizure. And so oftentimes this is discovered just by accident. And when I was in private practice and then when I was at Kaiser, we had this long symptom checklist, which I think is very helpful to have something like this, where it asks, have you had any of the following problems, and it includes signs and symptoms of eating disorders. Sexual dysfunction and eating disorders, people feel embarrassed about bringing it up and talking about it, but they're much more likely to check it on a checklist. So as a part of initial evaluation, something like that can be very helpful. Topamax, we talked about when we talked about bipolar disorder. And remember, Topamax is associated with weight loss, okay? So that might be something that bulimic people would be interested in, but it also appears to be probably the best drug for treating bulimia and also binge eating, okay? Anorexia nervosa, the main biological treatment for anorexia nervosa is feeding people food. Okay, but I'm not kidding. Okay, I'm not kidding. And part of the reason for this is, guess what? Dopamine, serotonin, okay, and norepinephrine all require essential amino acids that are not made by the body but must be derived from diet. And so in the past, when they've tried to use things like antidepressants, for instance, well, guess what? They're not even making enough of the neurotransmitter because they don't have the building blocks for neurotransmitters, which are these essential amino acids. So that's why a lot of the drugs haven't worked. Now, probably they don't work because they are not effective in treating anorexia, but they don't even have the basic building blocks for critical neurotransmitters, okay? So somebody's got anorexia, what they do first is they try to get them back to some, modest nutritional status so they've at least got enough food, and nutrients in there that they can use to make neurotransmitters. Now, it turns out that among all of the psychotropic drugs, the ones that seem to be the best, they're not very good, though. Right? They're not good treatments. The treatments for anorexia nervosa involve psychotherapy primarily, but are the atypical antipsychotics. And, people that have anorexia, they have what looks like, sort of circumscribed delusion. There's not gross, disorganization of thinking, and you don't have hallucinations, but they're 80 pounds and they're going to die, and they look like a skeleton. They say, I'm too fat. That seems to me like impaired reality testing. Okay, and so at first there was some excitement about this because actually probably 2/3 of the atypicals cause weight gain. Okay, well, hey, that's what we need here is we need some weight gain. But even the drugs that are weight neutral, like Abilify, for instance, which doesn't increase weight, improve anorexia probably by treating this quasi-delusional ideas that they have.